I'd like to announce our keynote speaker, Sarah Zagorski. She is a life, foster care, and adoption advocate with years of experience in the pro-life movement. She was rescued from abortion after her Hispanic birth mother was referred to a New Orleans abortionist because his costs were low. He intended to leave Sarah for dead following a breech delivery at 26 weeks, but a miraculous pro-life decision, her birth mother, who suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, fought for her life, and Sarah was sent to a children's hospital and survived. Sarah is a graduate with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Communications and Biblical Studies from Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. She now lives in New Orleans, Louisiana, with her husband and her son, Jesse. Sarah is currently a staff member of the Louisiana Right to Life and previously contributed to pro-life work in Colorado with lifenews.com, which if you haven't ever taken advantage of lifenews.com, it's a great place to go for good information. She's also worked with Colorado Citizens for Life, which is, like we are at Nebraska Right to Life, a state affiliate of National Right to Life. And she has worked with Colorado Family Action, a policy partner of Focus on the Family. So please help me in welcoming Sarah Zagorski.
Good morning. Wow, this is so beautiful. I feel so humbled and honored to be here with you today. I hope that for the many of you that were at the march are disappointed in my presentation now, because we're going to go into some deep stuff. As Sandy said, my name is Sarah Zagorski. I'm from New Orleans, and I always, before I talk, I share my story publicly very often, but always before I talk, I prayerfully consider what is the message of today. Because I believe that the Lord always, Christ is always bringing us back to the message of today. And I did that for this. And I think my little journey here, I've never been in Nebraska before, but I think my journey here really gave me the addition I needed for today's talk. I left my hometown of New Orleans yesterday. After a tough week, I was delayed in Dallas because of wind. I had a really turbulent flight, landed in Omaha in blizzard conditions. Then at some point en route, my cousin texted me that there are riots in Omaha, and I was like, what's going on? And then once I got into Omaha, Nebraska, I picked up my rental car, and there were blizzard-like conditions on the road, which I haven't dealt with since living in Colorado. So I was a little nervous about that. And I mean, it was really good. Like, the weather was clear in Lincoln. It was very clear. It was wonderful. But on the way here, I saw cars on the side everywhere. But this really brought me to a picture of where we are now in our country, which is we are in a time of endless obstacles in front of us. I had endless obstacles, it felt like, to get here. Yet I persisted and I arrived here. These obstacles often leave us feeling hopeless. Internally, within the pro-life movement, there are many unknowns as to how we're going to proceed in our work in saving lives from abortion amidst a pandemic. There's sometimes disagreement and confusion on how to proceed with our activities. Many of you, I know, have been devoted to this cause for many, many years and are understandably tired. Then externally, as I mentioned, we're rioting in the streets. There's political discord, even among my own family and friends. And I don't know about you, but every single time I turn on the television or go on social media, I'm astounded by how much violence and hatred there is for one another. And honestly, it leaves me feeling paralyzed. I'll admit, I've been paralyzed recently. And during this temporary paralysis, some questions come to mind, genuine, important questions come to mind. And that is what I'm doing for life actually making a difference? What am I going to do next to help? Is there anything I can do? Are lives really being saved? What's my step? And ultimately, the question I hear all the time, is there an end in sight to the killing of unborn babies in the womb and the violence abortion brings to women and their families? And ultimately, the question I sometimes come to, can I quit this work? Can I quit because I'm tired, because I'm exhausted, because I feel paralyzed? For myself, my reasoning, my devotion, my fidelity to the cause, you could say, is personal. As Sandy kind of highlighted for you, I'm going to share again, though. In January of 1990, my birth mother, a Hispanic woman, I know I don't look Hispanic, but a Hispanic woman, an immigrant from Honduras, consulted with an infamous abortionist after being referred to him by a friend. The physician was known for helping poor minority women facing obstacles, which my mother certainly was. Here's a little view of her life circumstances. Her pregnancy with me was the result of an extramarital affair. My biological father was a prominent physician in the city and had no interest in my life. She met him by working as his maid. And my stepfather was mentally ill himself and abusive. He was in no condition to help her. I was her 7th pregnancy. She already had other children, including twins. She lived in economic poverty and relied on government services like Medicaid and food stamps to survive. She struggled with mental illness, as Sandy said, paranoid schizophrenia, which really stole most of her life from her. She was also a victim of domestic violence. Her first husband married her for U.S. citizenship and hurt her regularly. She was familiar with abortion, having 2 abortions in her past before my conception. It wouldn't be exaggerative of me to say she was in a crisis pregnancy. And looking at it all today, I don't know how much more difficult her life could have been at that time. But I have such compassion for her that I certainly didn't have in the past. I can understand what led her to pursue abortion. I've realized it was the hopelessness and the fear of her life circumstances that led her to abortion's door. Yet in the very end, she reversed course that day in January. The abortion physician delivered me breech at 26 and a half weeks and advised my vulnerable mother to leave me to die on the table. He told her I'd be a mental vegetable, unable to have a normal life. But thankfully, in a miraculous moment in time, she threatened to sue him if he didn't get me immediate medical help, which he did. From there, I was sent to Children's Hospital Trauma's birth ward in New Orleans, where I remained until I recovered. I learned many years later that the abortion physician was under review for performing botched abortions as early as 1989, just the year before, which I believe made my mother's threat persuasive enough for him to get me help. Sadly, my birth mother passed away 10 years ago, this past October, and her and I had a very difficult relationship. In fact, I'd say our entire relationship was smeared with pain. But today, I have a little bit better visibility of her. I have some clarity that's brought me to one firm conclusion. Her life to me wasn't defined by those obstacles, but by that one action she took at the very end to save my life, despite everything going on around her. And I've decided, and I believe, we all have to have tunnel vision now. It's our time to learn more by getting tunnel vision and looking at the primary priority for us. What am I supposed to be doing for life? You see, that decision was only one moment, but we have many decisions in front of us of how we're going to move forward, but we must continue moving forward. I suffered tremendously in my birth mother's home, but I think by reflecting on her story and stories like mine and thinking about the thousands upon thousands of women in her shoes, we can help pull ourselves out of our temporary paralysis, which I do regularly. I go back to that moment in time and say, what can I do to reach women like her? I'm not saying we don't look at the long-term goals here. I'm not saying we don't look at overturning Roe versus Wade. Don't get me wrong. But the truth is, there are women every day that you will encounter that are looking for you. They are looking for you outside of that abortion clinic. They are looking for you on the other side of their telephone. They are looking for you at the grocery store. And they are looking for you at their church. Research shows that upwards of 65% of women who choose abortion face some kind of coercion, meaning that someone else is pressuring them within their circle to have an abortion, whether that be a partner, a friend, a loved one. Most of these women are not sitting in an abortion clinic wanting to end the life of their unborn child, celebrating that decision. They are not empowered. They feel they have no choice. So let me say it as plainly as I can. What I hope you glean from my mother's story, from my story, is that I'm committed to ending abortion, to the reversal of Roe versus Wade. I have no idea when that will be. I don't know when the end is in sight. But my commitment to that goal only really matters if I utilize what I have today to end abortion, to save a life, to not get stuck in hopelessness, to not get stuck in paralysis, despite what we see around us. We have to remember that women in crisis, this very moment, they're not concerned with the outcome of abortion jurisprudence, or the specifics of our work, or even the politics of our movement. They are concerned with the crisis within the four walls of their home. And we need to be concerned about that crisis. We need to get in their shoes. We need to say, what can we do? What creative things can we do to reach them, to break into their world today, to find a life and help save it? I'm thankful I have so many examples of heroes of the cause that have done this exact thing, including Julie, the former director of Nebraska Right to Life. I know she was committed to ending abortion and to empowering women with real options when they're facing a crisis pregnancy. So the past speaks as to what our movement can do, right? The past tells us we can have victory. I know in Nebraska, we have laws on the books here, just like in Louisiana, that protect women from the lucrative abortion industry. States across the country have been offering women the pro-life alternative to abortion of adoption, halting abortion proponents, sharing with women that there is healing after an abortion. We have to continue this work. We have to keep our tunnel vision every day. I'm thankful too, not only for these examples, but for the examples I have in my adoptive family. Let me tell you a little bit about them. My adoptive parents took me into their care for the first time when I was 16 months. Through the Louisiana foster care system. They supported my birth mother and my family for many years as they needed, with food, with hygiene products, with continued care. They provided practical items for my family during our periods of starvation, abuse, and neglect. My adopted mother sat on the New Orleans board of Right to Life in Louisiana, shares her own story of regret from aborting her only pregnancy when she was in her 20s. I've watched her counsel women in front of abortion facilities for years. She never gave up. And tomorrow, she's turning 76, and every single week she goes to the abortion clinic, holding a sign, "I had an abortion, please come talk to me." She has tunnel vision. This is my example. These are my examples. Tunnel vision. She doesn't know when the end of Roe is coming. I don't know when the end of Roe is coming, but they're committed fidelity to the cause, to ending abortion. My adoptive parents have also suffered with me through the loss of my birth mother, through the loss of my family after foster care. I was adopted when I was 9 years old. It was a very big transition to go from a family of, eventually my mother went on to have more children, so I'm one of 11, to go from that to being an only child. They wept with me, they walked with me through that. But now they share the joy of seeing my continued relationship with some of my siblings flourish. I know that Nebraska Right to Life has these examples too, everywhere. Personal stories, stories of heroes of the faith, heroes of the cause that continue to work without seeing an end in sight. And that's my message for you today. I hope my story and these stories will tell you that you're not alone in feeling the paralysis, you're not alone in feeling the hopelessness, but you see, we just can't stop. There's no stopping. I don't care who's president. I don't care what Congress is made up of. We are going to fight, and we're going to win in the end. We are going to persist in the end. And I don't know what that looks like for the next chapter of Nebraska Right to Life in the state of Nebraska, but I know that you guys are all in good hands, and that there will be pro-life legislation. I think I just heard about some at the Capitol coming forward that will protect life. We have to embrace that. We have to work toward that. As I close, I want to share that this is not easy, sharing all this about my personal life with you. It's very painful, it's very hard. But I am committed to doing so until the women like my mother know that they do have another choice. That there are people like you out there that are willing to help, people like my adoptive family that are willing to help. I often get this question, do you have to be a foster parent? Do you have to adopt a child to be pro-life? Absolutely not. I have never fostered a child or adopted a child. But I'm supporting those who do. I am working with those who do. And I saw out in your four-way here that you'll have resources in your community, pregnancy centers that are working alongside the affiliate of Nebraska Right to Life and helping and supporting them in their mission to protect life. We have to work together with fidelity to the cause itself. We might disagree in here ourselves about so many different things, which is why staying on course with protecting that baby who has a heartbeat 18 days from conception is so important. Because if we don't do that, we're going to find there are differences among us. There are differences about healthcare, about immigration, about politics. But the way we stay on course is looking at those women, looking at the examples behind us, and by saying what is most important is that baby in the womb and that mother in crisis, and we're going to do everything in our power to protect them. And that is what I'm committed to for my entire life. Please join me. Thank you.